Hey, let me do a little check-in for the Chessmen of Mars, a further novel in the Barsoom series by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is, I believe, number 5. This is centering on another child of John Carter of Virginia and Dejah Thoris. The last one being on Catharsis, this one being on Tara of Helium, Martian princess. I think I've already kind of done summary of the kind of the opening bits of this book, of her being kind of um, um, being pissed off, jumping on her jet into the middle of a storm, getting swept way into the far away, ending up imprisoned by these bizarre creations of Edgar Rice Burroughs. What are they? They're a combination of a Rykor, which is a headless body, and Kaldane, which is just basically a head with spider legs and and also like crab claws, um, and which they basically ride the Rykors. They use the bodies to kind of ride around in. So it's they're really, they have beautiful red Martian bodies, but which apparently they've bred over the years to their state of perfection, because they are basically pure mind, while the Rykar is just pure bodily functions and stuff like that. Uh, it's Edgar Rice Burroughs doing kind of a weird Star Trek episode. I mean, obviously, this is where Star Trek and science fiction gets this sort of stuff from, of the idea of a race of just pure mind creatures. I mean, their highest goal is they want to basically stay below the ground and be just a pure mind, not have any bodily function whatsoever. At least that's the dominant theory. They of course they make friends with one of the Kaldane, and Gek, and they met it. They being Tara of Helium, and the was it Galantian guy? Oh, which his name? He takes on the name of Turin to be to just present himself as a humble kind of mercenary to Tara, because he was very impolite to her in Helium, and had said how he loved her, even though she'd been promised to some other dude to be married off to, because that's what women are good for, is to be married to kind of seal deals, and that's what she was pissed off about. And but she also wasn't very happy about him expressing his love to her. So he's just presented himself as a humble mercenary, and he's fallen her out into the dust storm. Manages to finally track her down, um, and indeed he's actually about to leave her, because he thinks it's just a humble prisoner, and he's, as a prince, he's got to think about the higher stuff of the stuff. But then it's like, luckily, he himself gets trapped, and he finds out, shit, I almost left the princess behind. But they all get imprisoned, but Gek helps them to escape. They escape. They get they end up getting imprisoned by falling prey to yet another civilization of it's red Martians again, but they're the Manitors, something like that, who are, it's kind of they have a lot of boring sections in this book. They're a very tricky bunch. They're very much might is right, and they look down in disdain on anyone that is weaker than them, which, they make sure that they only prey on the weak to begin with. There's a whole section in here that Edgar Rice Burroughs really seems to describe a psychology that you might actually apply to Americans themselves. Of They look down on all the other countries because they themselves have never been successfully invaded. They do kind of stealthy attacks on other weaker things and imprison people. And indeed, they look down on their own slaves the same way, which is like, this could be taken as a very pointed criticism of the U.S., I would say. At least that's what it comes across to me as. And of course, how they dispense justice is through basically Martian chess, but living players where you are a player put on the board. And this is a very especially brutal city where you basically when one piece goes to another piece on the board of one man going on to another thing, you have to fight and fight to the death. And indeed, it's the ruling people who sit on the sidelines for the most part and just command things. And you have to, if you're condemned to like play 10 entire games, it's very unlikely that you're actually going to survive. And indeed, no one has survived, and you would actually have to play 10 games to get your freedom. No one's ever gotten their freedom. It's, it's basically a slave state that where all the rules are, are are pointed against the slaves and keep them subjugated. So there's all that. Though we've just come, a Jed from a neighboring city where apparently he's much more enlightened has come to the city, and he apparently really dislikes the fellow that lives here. And the slave girl who Tara is talking to makes the reference of, well, they hate each other so much it wouldn't take much to set them to war against each other. Plot point. Um, and we have Ged, who's playing pranks on his jailers. Basically, he can pop his head off, and so he uses that to trick the jailers into thinking like, oh, he's disappeared. Someone runs to report it, but when they come back, he's back. His head's back there. Or then he unlocks the thing, goes off into something. He's like, oh, he's escaped, but then he comes back, and it's like, oh, he's still back here. So they think he's like some kind of a ancient wizard demon creature. So they're really afraid of him. And this being kind of princess in peril stuff, an evil jailer tries to rape Tara. She kills him, but she and the slave girl manage to stash his body, and there's luckily he doesn't bleed from his wound, so nobody sees any blood. And it's like, have you made him disappear somehow? It's like, are you also some kind of wizard or something like that? And it's like, so they're a superstitious bunch, it seems. But now, yes, this Jed from a neighboring city has come, and she has been summoned to stand in front of the evil head of the city, their jailers. Oddly enough, all these people have names like Ator or Emed or stuff like that. And I was thinking, God, these names are just horrible to remember. It's like, what kind of places have this? Now, this is A-med and E-tor or E-med. It's E-med and A-tor and all these names. I think, geez, these are terrible names. Like, I have trouble keeping anybody apart. I really have a real block about this. And then I thought about, what's my YouTube name? It's J Shay. I mean, it's not the letter J dash Shay, but basically when you say it, it's exactly the same principle, which I thought, it's like, oh, that's an interesting criticism for coming from a guy that's J dash Shay. So I amuse myself, but not very many other people. So that is what I have so far. I think this is up to chapter 13 of the Chssmn of Mars. So I've got like 8 more chapters to go, which I'm gonna try and now that I've finished clearing the plains, I'm gonna try and really just focus my reading on that for the next little bit and try to get that done before the end of the month, so I can have my traditional end of the month Edgar Rice Burroughs review, my solitary review, since it doesn't seem that anybody else is actually doing Marsathon other than me. I've apparently latched on to a readathon and have found myself the only rat on the sinking ship. People probably finding other more pressing readathons to do, which is hilarious. They'll probably, start it up again next year, and I'll just enjoy the memories, because I doubt if I'll want to reread these books again in such a short period of time. All right. With that, I will say good night.